Weren't listed on Google, weren't listed on Companies House. They just are vapes and American candy. Some of the other reactions that we had when we went into barbers were even more extreme. People running and hiding behind doors and then sticking their fingers up, saying, "Oh, go speak to the person next door." And in one case, we walked in and there were actually kids inside the vape store.
So are you suggesting that some of these shops are selling to underage kids? Zak Garner-Purkis back in the hot seat again. So you went to the UK town with the most vape shops and barber shops, is this right?
Well, no. So how this started was I was trying to find the place that had the biggest oversupply of vapes anywhere in the country, right?
Are you addicted to vapes or something?
I'm not addicted to vapes, but I'm addicted to finding out about them.
Right.
Well, I think, right, most people in the UK would have had a similar experience, right? They walk out on their high street and all they see are a massive oversupply of Turkish barbers and vape shops, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I went into it. A simple question. Can we find a place where the supply massively outstrips the demand? Now, Accrington come up because Lancashire is the kind of vape county capital of the UK. There's more vape shops than anywhere else. And then Accrington was a town within Lancashire that had the biggest oversupply of vape shops to people that vape. So about 10% of the population of the country vape. Accrington has 35,000 people, so that's like 3,500 people buying vape products. Now, basically, we've done a simple calculation of how many products they would need to sell, and we just wanted to go in to ask them, are you selling this number of products? How do you stay in business? When I started looking at the town, I noticed, like, hold on a second, they've also got a lot of barbers here, right?
Right.
And so on the kind of one of the main streets in Accrington, they actually had 15 barbers. So
Wow.
we run the numbers on how many blokes would be needing to get their hair cut. We also found a massive shortfall. So so we were like, okay, we've got quite a simple question to just ask these people. And yeah, that was the sort of premise of the investigation.
This may sound like a stupid question, but I'll tell you why I'm asking it afterwards. Did you try any of these vapes in the vape stores?
Did I try any of the vapes?
Yes.
No, why?
Are you an Elf bar or are you more of a Lost Mary man? You know, but
I was double apple all day, right? Okay.
I'll tell you why I'm asking, because one of the things I have read about is that some of these vape shops are selling illegal vapes. And I wondered if there's a difference between the legitimate ones that are coming European certified and these more under the table ones.
What I'll say, JJ, is it's even more obvious than that, right? So with some of these places we'd walk into, weren't listed on Google, weren't listed on Companies House. They just are vapes and American candy. Well, it's quite weird for like a random part of Accrington to have a demand for that. You'd walk into the store, there would be nobody there. So we got a video of it that you'll see, which is just me walking about going, hello, hello, because their staff wouldn't be there. They're not expecting customers. You go to the fridges and they'll be like half full with products. So it's like, I don't know how many stores, well, like anyone goes into a store, it's pretty unusual to find a half-stocked fridge. And then, you know, staff members that seem confused to have customers. And that was quite a common experience, right? So it's not just, and the prices were too low. So it's not just, okay, there could be some illegal product here. It was just the whole enterprise, just there's a lot of question marks around it.
So with these, so I watched some of the video of your investigation, and in one of the shops you went into, the guy said he sells about 3 vapes a day, which wouldn't be enough to even pay for his own wage, let alone the electricity and the rent and everything else that goes along with having a shop.
Yeah, and I mean, look, that was repeated over and over. Like, I don't think any. Well, actually, no. There was one guy that claimed to be making £250 a day, which was, again, ludicrously high. How are you able to sell that many vapes to the market that we got? But look, at least he was claiming to be profitable. A lot of the other people would just come out and say it and be like, oh yeah, there's 3-4 workers, and you know, we sell well under what we'd calculated that you would need to just come and cover the kind of minimum costs that you've got in Accrington, right? And the thing with this is, the thing with this investigation is it's just a snapshot, right? This is just one town, but it's familiar to everybody around the country. And when I went away and spoke about some of the stuff that well, actually, what I should also say first is some of the other reactions that we had when we went into barbers were even more extreme. people running and hiding behind doors and then sticking their fingers up, saying, "Oh, go speak to the person next door." Or in one case, they shuttered the store as we were on our way down the street, calling up each other. Obviously, word started spreading between these businesses about us coming in.
Yeah.
And in one case, we walked in and there were actually kids inside the vape store. I mean, the owner said, "Okay, clear off, lads," when we walked in, but they were in there for quite a long time, and I don't know what they would be doing.
So are you suggesting that some of these shops are selling to underage kids?
Oh, I mean, look, I don't know with these specific examples, but we know that that is something that happens, right? And we know that if you do have a setup where it doesn't matter that you make money or that you have illegal products, then yeah, you're going to probably be more open to doing that type of a thing. But the point I was coming to was like, when I spoke to trading standards professionals and other people that have studied these markets, they said, look, what you need to understand is that organised crime groups have taken over the British High Street. That trading standards officers that go in to do these raids, back in the day, it was all like, oh yeah, is the scale right in the shop selling penny sweets? Now they're wearing stab vests and have got cameras and they're being spat at, they're being attacked. Sometimes they're being locked in stores. Like they're facing some really serious stuff because the other experts I spoke to said, this is organised crime, and that could be drug dealing. It could also be people trafficking. I think that's one of the other things that like our viewers will really be interested to know, which is that this links right into Dunkirk, it links into Calais, it links into people coming straight over. There's definitely that be people that be paying off debts and money being washed in some of these places that relates to the migrant crisis.
So then why aren't the authorities doing anything? Why aren't the local councils getting involved? Why isn't Keir Starmer getting involved in this?
Well, I think take it like bit by bit, right? So for the local councils, when you go to a place like Accrington, you walk down rows that had brown rust on the shutters. That's how long they've not been in business. Now, the local council's got a difficult situation, right? They want to have a centre that's thriving, but they don't have Boots and all these places that you used to have as anchor tenants. They're not beating down the doors to kind of set up shops in these places. And so if someone comes to them and says, oh yeah, we want to set up another Barbers, they might be like, well, at least we're breathing a bit of life into it. Now, I'm not saying that that's right, and there should definitely be more questions asked, but if you're talking about councils that are underfunded and these town centres that are failing, that's the number one kind of issue that you've got. When you go higher up, I think it's just this is not a priority and people aren't looking at it. But in the same way as when we exposed what was going on with Deliveroo and Just Eat, because it was brazen and it was right out there, it's like you can take action on this, but it probably does need to come from that higher level. But I think the other thing is you need to help the businesses so we can have places that can actually make money, can survive. Because when we spoke to other business owners in Accrington, we spoke to a barber who it was just him on his own. So he doesn't have to pay any salary. And he was struggling. He was closing down the store because he said, I need to do 10 cuts a day to stay in business. I'm barely doing 5 to 6. Round the corner, there's another Barbers. They've got 3 chairs with 3 barbers. So they need to do, 3 times what he's doing, and they don't have anyone in. But they might be picking up 2 or 3 that would previously have gone to his shop.
Now, these criminal gangs that are essentially taking over the high street, as you say, are these British criminals? Are these foreign criminals? Do we know?
I mean, well, let's just be blunt about it. What we found in Accrington, it was Kurdish and Pakistani groups that were moving in. In terms of we know for a fact that people trafficking, the Kurdish groups, they control Calais, they control Dunkirk. So immediately there should be some red flags and there should be some extra checks that are happening. Part again is the problem is if trading standards finds an issue, right, all they can really do is take action against the person that's on the paperwork. They're not sat there being like, oh, can we pull apart this, criminal matrix?
Yeah.
And if they do pass it on to the police, well, the police have got quite a lot to be getting on with. So we've got to have some other kind of measures that are able to just stop people setting up these outlets. Because the ultimate consequence of having, 5 or 6 barbers there that don't need to make money is the one that is doing it the right way doesn't get any customers. They go out of business and everyone loses. So it needs to get, but that action needs to come right from the top. And I think the frustration that exists in the country is that it just seems so obvious. We just went to somewhere where it was obvious, where these places can't be profitable. It doesn't make sense. And that's what a lot of people will be like, yeah, my town's got exactly the same thing.
Okay, so similar to your grooming gangs investigation then, Zak, if this is happening in this microcosm of Accrington, Accrington Stanley, do you remember that advert? That's one for our younger viewers. If it's happening in Accrington, then it's almost certainly happening in Birmingham, in Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle, London. It wasn't so long ago, Oxford Street was popping up with all these American candy shops, and people were saying the same things that you're telling me about these vape shops in Accrington.
Well, it is happening across the country. It doesn't matter. That's the thing about this, which is whether it is, the prime retail space in the country or a small, northern post-industrial town, right? They're seeing the same things repeated. I guess what's shocking is that the experts are saying this is organised crime. Because look, there's always been an element of illegality within the high street, but now our high streets have just become vehicles for organised crime. I mean, that's a sad indictment on the UK, isn't it?
Are you going to take this information to the powers that be and alert them to it? Because I don't know about you, if my granny lived in this country, the high street is the kind of place where the elderly will go and do a bit of a shop. That is still the case. I'm from a small town, Dudley. Our high streets, they're dying, but people still use the high street. I wouldn't feel safe having my grandma and her mates walking down the high street to go to bingo and having to walk around where there's organised criminals hiding behind little tills. God knows what they're getting up to behind them and what other shady characters they're inviting across.
Well, yeah, and that's perfectly reasonable. And I think a lot of people would feel the same way and do feel the same way about their high streets and about their town centres. It's a tricky one, right? Because we do need people to go in there and we do need it, we need to give it a chance, but you got to clamp down on this nonsense that's going on at the moment in order for that to even be a possibility. I just come back to, I can't believe the brazenness of it. And I think that's what really gets people's backups. It's like with the small boats in France, what riles people up more than people coming into the country illegally is how blatant it is. It's just like, okay, I'm just going to traffic someone across the channel and you're just going to stand by and watch it. It's the same feeling as like, oh, I'm just going to walk down and see 15 barber shops and nobody in them and no actual shops that I want to use and be part of a community that, has had existed for, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Well, Nigel Farage, he's a big fan of this show. He has weighed in on your investigation. What's he said?
Well, he's praised the investigation and he's pointed out that this is something that he's been talking about for a long time, which he did bring up Turkish Barbers, and straight away you get a backlash. And look, the point should be is not every Turkish Barbers is a front for organised crime. Not every vape shop is a money laundering enterprise. That is absolutely not the case. The problem that we've got is actually the legit ones are being run out of business by bad actors. And this is something that we need to care about. This is like, look, the internet, Britain is changing. It's not going to go back to you having Woolworths and the post office and all the rest of it. But we got to figure out some way that we can have some of these spaces that are not going to just be tools for criminal networks to use.
All right, Zak, final question, mate, before you run off. Aside from this investigation, where obviously you were in the vape shops and the barber shops, when's the last time you actually needed a barber? Eh? It's probably when you were 23.
That's why I was, that was why I was the perfect guy to go in, right? I mean, maybe for the next one, I put on a wig and I go in and just be like, yeah, can you give me a fade? And they're just like, just go in. Something not right. And then I go, I know you couldn't do it, right? Yeah. So, all right, look, I can get a Turkish.
Yeah. They can do ear stuff as well, the Turkish ones.
What are you trying to say, mate?
I'm just saying, I've had a close-up look. They can sort that out for you. Zak Garner-Purkis, thank you very much. And thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. very important, comments, because often we will jump into the comments and reply to you. So leave your comments, and also don't forget to hit the hype button. Thank you, and bye-bye.